Hello. I wonder how many of us bounced out of bed this morning, full of energy and raring to go. Or were most of us more like a student I read about? She'd failed to turn up to meet some friends, and they were worried. They phoned, and when she answered, they asked, "We missed you. Are you okay?" "Sorry I wasn't there," she replied. "I had an accident. I was making my bed, and I fell into it." If you were to compare life today with life in my granddad's time, one thing seems very strange. In those two generations, there have been more labour-saving devices produced than probably in the rest of recorded history. Washing machines, vacuum cleaner, electric hedge trimmer, microwave oven, mobile phone. The list is endless. In fact, when I first used to stay with my grandma and granddad, they still had no piped water. It had to be collected from the well on the village green. And yet now, with all these wonderful things, we're probably more tired than he was. Our society has been characterised as one where we are doing more and more and enjoying it less and less. What's the answer? Let me turn to a well-known passage in Matthew's Gospel. At that time Jesus said, "I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned and revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for this is what you were pleased to do. All things have been committed to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and those to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light." All you who are weary and burdened. That does sum up so many in our society today, doesn't it? Weary and burdened. It seems that the last 18 months have left some people weary because their workload has increased, and others weary because their workload has disappeared and they don't know what to do with themselves. They've lost all motivation. Put both those together, and for many people there is a weariness of spirit. Just feeling mentally and emotionally drained. That's the tiredness which dominates our society. So what's the solution? Well, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Rest, of course, was one of the things that was lost when people were driven out of Eden. But now Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." He is the one who can restore what was lost in the fall. He can give rest in a world where there is only weariness. And what does that rest involve? "Take my yoke upon you and learn of me." The yoke was a common farming implement. It was made of wood and it was used usually with oxen. If you were ploughing or taking something on a cart, 2 oxen would have this wooden yoke fitted across their shoulders so that they were taking the load between them. It meant that they could do so much more than one could have done alone. Jesus had probably made plenty of yokes over the years in his father's carpenter's shop. He would have known that the key to a good yoke is to make it fit perfectly, comfortably across the animal's shoulders. And that word would have had a particular resonance for the people listening to Jesus, because the Jews talked about the yoke of the law. A Jewish boy at his bar mitzvah would take on the yoke of the law. The law would be there alongside him to help him through life. The problem was that the law was not an easy yoke. The law could be a yoke of slavery, a burden that would weary people. And today, people are yoked to their work, or to the desire to prove themselves, or to self-image, or to popularity, or to chasing their dreams. And actually all of those things can become burdens. They're not easy yokes at all. But Jesus is so different. Instead of being joined to something that makes life harder, when you are joined to Jesus, he makes life better, because he completely reorients your life. Instead of having the law alongside you, you have Jesus. It is him you learn from. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. So for those of us who do feel weary and burdened, here is a great promise. Jesus offers us rest. But what does that mean in practice? How can you find that rest? Come to me. That's where Jesus' offer of rest begins, in coming to him. You see, Jesus doesn't say, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest so that you can rush off and get weary and burdened again. It isn't an invitation to come to him now and again when it's necessary. It's an invitation to reorient your life around him. Of course, coming to Jesus won't take away some of those situations which cause our weariness. I'm afraid that becoming a Christian won't stop big demands being made of you at work. It won't stop your children tiring you. But coming to Jesus should have an impact on the way that you live your life. It should affect your priorities. Things like prayer, Bible reading, worship, fellowship, enjoying God. They're not leisure activities to be fitted in alongside all your other leisure activities. They are the things which give rest. We need them. They're the things that refresh us, or at least they should. But instead, too many of us have lives that are full, varied, busy, and devoid of rest. Plenty of time to be busy in the world, no time to enjoy God. Or we get weary of heart because much of our usual activity has disappeared and we don't know what to do. But whether it's the weariness of over-busyness or of under-busyness, Jesus' invitation is just the same. Come to me. Whether they recognise it or not, everyone is yoked to something. There is something that drives your life. But only if it's Jesus will it lighten your load rather than increasing it. What did Jesus mean when he said, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest? It was his invitation to rearrange our priorities, to actually build our lives around him and our relationship with him. Augustine said that our hearts are restless till they find their rest in God. Now that's often taken evangelistically, but it is just as important when you are a Christian. Rest is found only in Jesus. But it does take a conscious act of the will to embrace that rest.